Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part, which is going to create an invoice, because after that following, it's going to ask you to actually make your deposit. So that's why it didn't make sense to why it mentioned it here, but I'm going to go ahead and skip that part real quick and move on to the sales receipt. Now, what this actually, going back real quick, what this section actually allows you to do is, if you prefer to just have QuickBooks just automatically deposit for you without having you to physically go in there and deposit it yourself, you can actually toggle a feature on there. This is, I think this is unnecessary, because it's you want to make sure that you have the money and you want to deposit it correctly. You don't want to just say, yes, I received this, and you're going to lose track very easily. So it is an extra step, but the book actually shows you where you can toggle it to make the deposits go straight into your bank versus having to have it in an undeposited section and deposit it afterwards. But that's okay. You guys can go ahead and read upon that if you prefer to have your QuickBooks set that way. So here we're going to be creating an invoice, okay? So again, the same ways that you can create a sales receipt is going to be the same exact ways you can also create an invoice. So there are a total of 7 ways. I'm just going to ask you for 3 just to save some time, but so let's go ahead. So if I'm in the customer center, right, what are the 3 ways I can enter an invoice this time? New transactions at the top, that is correct. Here, enter invoice. You can right click and enter an invoice. Okay, sorry. It's okay. And then you could go down here when you select the person that you want to create an invoice for, manage transaction, invoice. Okay, so those are the 3 ways you can create an invoice via using the customer center. So in this case, let's see who is actually the customer that we are going to create an invoice for. Okay, so customer center, select Mason Bob. All right, our friend Mason, Bob Mason. So I'm going to go here. Bob Mason's right here. And I'm going to go ahead and manage transaction. And I'm going to create an invoice for him. So once I do that, okay, it's letting me know what the new features are. Once I do that, once I validate that it's Bob, I'm going to go hit tab. And now if you just saw in a blink of an eye, everything filled in for you. The terms are automatic. His address is there. Even everything is there. Okay, all his information is there. Now it's gonna ask us. It's going to ask us to. Let's see. It's going to ask us to select Bob Mason and open 2 invoices listed in his history. Okay. Okay, so we're going to enter January 28. Our invoice number is going to be 106. And it's going to be for Okay, hold on. Let me see. What class does he belong from? He belongs in San Jose. Okay. So here, class is San Jose. All right. Now it's asking us to change the template. So this time we're supposed to have a template called Academy Photography Photo Session Invoice. Okay. So this is a preset of thing. So because we are Academy Photography, we do have preset invoices and things that are already set up for us. So again, so it's San Jose. We want to make sure that we're using the Academy photo session invoice, and we're going to bill him on the 28th of January. So here we can see that it's 2019 106. Again, I'm going to say it's 2020 106 so that we can start off the year correctly. Okay. And then now it's going to ask us to enter the invoice. Okay, enter any number that you want in the invoice number field. Okay. And we already did that. So now it's going to ask us to press tab to accept the date, to accept the default information in the bill to customer. So let's go ahead and see what we need to go into. So the PO number, we're going to leave blank because he didn't purchase this from us. This is us. We're just creating a bill for him. So let's keep going. Now, again, we're going to be looking at the collections. Okay, report. Okay, so let me see. Can anybody help me find the rest of the stuff? So now we need to do, so the things that we're actually going to be charging for Bob Mason is an indoor photo session, and he wants one of them. And he wants to have 1 hour of indoor photo session, and he wants 1 standard photo package. Okay, and for him, thank you for your business, and we need to set his tax as Santa Clara. And okay, perfect. So here we're at this thing right here, PO number. So that is our purchase number. Now, again, if we created an estimate, this is where the PO comes from. But in this case, he didn't order anything from us, or he didn't get an estimate from us, so we do not need to fill that information in. So again, terms, this is what we set in the customer profile. We set this up we already pre-set it up that we're going to allow him a 2% discount if he can pay within the first 10 days. So again, it's because we are billing him on January 28th. That means in the next 10 days, we should be receiving a check from him if he wants to meet that discount period. So again, we're going to be going down in here and filling in our information. So again, we had an indoor photo session, okay? And he wanted only 1 of them. Okay, so wait, where is my quantity? Quantity is 1. He only wanted 1 hour. And then we also know that he wanted a standard photo package, and he only wanted 1 of those. So as you can see, because we already preset the items, it's already going to automatically fill in the information for us. So now we get a calculated total at the bottom. Now it is already preset to Santa Clara, so we know that it's going to charge $4 tax, and this is how much my total is for Bob Mason. And then here I'm going to write thank you for your business. And in my memo, And in my memo, I'm going to go ahead and say 1 hour photo session and 1 standard package. Okay, so here I look at my invoice and I made sure that everything's correct. Santa Clara is tax, and I'm going to go ahead and press save and close. And if you have sound, you should get the beep of approval. Now, if I were to go to Bob Mason, right, as you can see, he has a lot of things that he owes us. So if I were to pull all the transactions, okay, here I see that I billed him 3 times and he's made 0 payments to me. And every time I billed him, it was every time I billed him, we billed this from December, we billed him in January, and we billed him again in January. So as you can see, this guy owes us a lot of money. Okay, so let's see what happens next now that we went through that. So same thing is going to apply for the same concept. If you have an invoice, right? So we increase our accounts payable. If we do not use the receive payments feature, this invoice will remain outstanding till the day. Okay. Now, for this one, you have a little more flexibility because in order to receive any type of cash, you can go directly into the cash register and say that, oh, this person made a payment and I've entered the cash in. But the thing is, if you do that, it's not going to associate anything you have to do with your invoice. So that is why it is good to make sure that you do click that receive payment to clear out all your invoices. Okay. Okay, so as we go ahead and look forward, it says right here, adding calculated items into QuickBooks, into invoices. So again, I actually don't have time to go over this because we have to go over a lot of things. So if you guys could just read this at home and be able to do it, it's pretty straightforward. Adding calculated things such as if you need to have, for example, right here, you need to have a zoom lens. It is an added thing on here. So I would highly recommend you to go ahead and read this whole section so you guys can be able to do that on your own. But I am going to go ahead and view this right here. So this is going to be view invoice reports. So again, pretty straightforward. So there are 2 ways we can look at our invoices, right? We can look at here. We can look at our income tracker. Our income tracker can tell us how many invoices we have outstanding right here in a quick snapshot, in a little snapshot right here. I have 2, 4, 6. I have 7 invoices outstanding right now, and as you can tell, my invoices up here at the top is telling me I have this much outstanding and this much is overdue. Now, if I were to go to the reports, right, I'd be able to see a more organized and it looks more formal way of looking at our open statements. So here I'm going to go to customers and report receivables, and I'm going to go ahead and let's look at our open invoice balances. Open invoices, okay? Once I do this, this is where it's going to show me all the invoices here. I can toggle it by date. I can toggle it by month, whatever you want to do. Okay, so here this shows me all of them. Yes, so this shows me all of them that I have accumulated over the entire company. So I have all 3 here, 3 here, and 1 here. So that's a total of 7 invoices I have open with their balance numbers right here. Okay. Here I can toggle the specific date. Maybe I just want to make sure how many invoices I have in the month of January. So I can go ahead and toggle that and say any invoices from January 1st. And once I do that, I can click the refresh button and it's going to show me all these invoices that are overdue for in January. So I have here everything pretty much was in January. So as you can see, it goes 3 and then we're missing 1 invoice right here. That's the one that we just created for Bob Mason. And then here is this one. Okay, so here we only show 6 out of 7. So I just wanted to make sure that you guys know this as well, but Income Tracker does just the same job. This is more a formal report for you guys to print out and keep it as a record, okay? All right, so let me go ahead and get out of this window. And I'm going to go ahead and close my bill tracker. And I'm going to go ahead and close my customer center. All right. And let's see what section is next. So next is actually receiving payments from customers. So again, when we are receiving payment at all from our customers, you have 2 options, right? You can either get it directly from them through a sales receipt, or you can do a receive payments. Now, this one, it tells us to, let me see. It tells us to click the receive payments on the home page. Okay? Just like any other thing that you can do, you're going to find it in the same location. So again, I'm going to open up my customer center. All right. And customer payments. So let me go ahead and close this real quick because I want to go to my customer center. This one. Okay, so again, I'm going to go to my customer center. Customers. My customers. Okay, just like how we entered a bill, just like how we enter a sales receipt and just like how we entered a invoice, you can also receive payments the same way. So those 7 steps, I believe for the Income Tracker, you can receive payments through there as well. So here I can receive my payments through here. I can also receive my payments. If I were to highlight somebody, I can also receive payments here. Receive payments. I can also receive payments just by going down to manage transactions. Right here, receive payments. And then lastly, so I'm going to go ahead and show you this one too, because this is also one of those things that, it's kind of hidden. If I click Bob Mason, I see his invoice. If I click invoice, at the top, it says I can receive payments. Okay? So that's 8 ways you can enter in a payment. All right. So how about that? So, okay, I think the person that we are going to be looking at when we are receiving our payments is actually going to be Bob Mason. I believe we're gonna receive payments from all three of his invoices, I believe. So let me go ahead and do what the book says and select receive payments from the home page. All right. So again, the payments, customer payments window is going to look like this. It's the same as if we did a sales receipt. Just make sure that you know the difference. Okay. So here I'm going to go ahead and look at what the information tells me to do. So here we're going to select the customer payment window should show up, and the person that we're going to be looking at is going to be Bob Mason. Okay, so once I do that, it's going to pop up a window, and I'll show you what I mean. And I think we're gonna receive payment for all three, if I'm not mistaken, or just one. Let me see. Okay, so we're going to do invoice number 394 for, let me see, for the amount of, he's going to pay us for the, for just the first invoice. Okay, so once we've, so our person that we're going to be looking into is Bob Mason. So if I type Bob in, okay, let's type in Mason. There you go, Mason Bob. Once I just click him and I click anywhere else, his invoice should pop up, all three of them. Okay, now this is where I can choose which invoice to associate his bill with, or to associate his payment for, or I can, yes. So by taking the check mark on the left side, you're going to indicate which one is he going to be paying for. So I believe he's paying for the 401, and it says this. Just go ahead and click and yes. Okay, so we know that it's been way overdue, but that's okay. He's paid for it. Okay. And then he said he's going to pay via check, and his check number is his check number is 5256. So $52.56 for $401. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this up. His check was $52.56 for $401. And now that we validate that he's going to pay for this specific invoice, I'm going to make sure everything's correct. The date, when did he pay? I'm going to say he paid, let's just say the 20, I think he said the 22nd, but I'm going to say the 28th. And I'm going to click Save and Close. You should get a beep of approval after that to validate that the transaction has happened. All right. All right. Okay, once we verified that he has completely paid us off, we're going to be entering payment invoice number 3947 in the memo. Oh, I already closed it out. Save and close. Okay. So once we've done that, now this is where it's going to, this section is going to ask you to associate with partial payments. So for example, let's say your customer, right? They didn't pay. They sent you a check, but they didn't pay for the entire amount. So what's going to happen is you can take a bill and you can counter against how much that check is going to be. So I'm going to go ahead and receive payment. And again, let me see who I'm going to be using this time. Okay, so what happens when receive payments is so if a customer does pay us halfway, right? They send us a check and they only paid for half the amount. You know, we can validate that and we can say like at least he attempted to pay. It's not like he just left us hanging. So what happens is when even if you do have someone that does do that, you're still going to create an invoice, okay? And if this customer, right, said I want half now and half later, then you're still going to create an invoice and make sure that you do validate for the amount that he is paying half for. So when we're doing our receive payment, what's going to happen is I'm just going to show you for an example. I'm not going to actually do it. If I were to say Bob Mason, right? He's going to pay me, and then I'm going to select which invoice that he has paid me for, right? Now, I'm going to say, well, he gave me a check, but he didn't pay me for the full amount. He only paid me $350. I can change the amount that he wants to pay me for. And once I do that, what's going to happen is when I click OK, this statement or this invoice is still going to populate, but it's going to populate with an updated amount, saying that he hasn't fully paid me yet. So that is also cool about QuickBooks is you don't have to worry too much about if a person partially pays, it will keep track of it for you. And because we're countering against this specific invoice, it will keep track of you, and when he pays in full, he pays in full. But here you can manipulate the number here. It's not based on if you select this, the amount will change. No, you can actually write in how much he is actually going to be paying for this particular invoice. Okay. So here I'm gonna go ahead and let me see if we're good on time. Okay, so it's 10:30. So here I'm gonna validate when so the next scenario is asking me to validate a credit card transaction. So in this case, again, it's the same thing, more or less or similar, okay? Instead of clicking check, we're actually going to be clicking a credit card or debit card. Once you do that, it's going to ask you, well, first off, what credit card is it and what is the account number? All right, so I'm going to cancel real quick just so that we can see who is actually paying for this bill. So I believe it is going to be okay, so we're going to be entering the customer in the customer center. Cruz Maria Cruz. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and validate Cruz Maria. Okay, so she has two parts. Just go ahead and just click Cruz Maria and look at all of her invoices show up. Now, I'm going to say she got to pay all of them. She paid all of them in one shot. And she used her credit card to pay them via Visa. Okay, so once you click this, you're going to validate what kind of card did she have. This one, you can set it up as well if you have a different credit card company, such as maybe Capital One. You are able to actually be able to put that in here. Or I'm sorry, not Capital One. But yes, or these are they usually have the preset common ones that you can use. But let's say you have a different brand or a different company that is allowing you to, you can also add it in here as well. But she is going via Visa, okay? And her card number is, I think it's 1234. dash 1234 dash 1234 dash 1234. And then it's going to ask you the expiration date. So I believe it was 10/20/20, if I am not mistaken. Okay. Now with that, the one thing that it's never going to ask you is it's never going to ask you for the 3-pin security number, because that is actually illegal for us to actually hold on to. Okay. So we're going to have to ask her for that information, or we're just going to have to validate and she has to validate it through whatever system that she is, the banking that she's using for this card. So, yes, again, it is illegal for us as a company to hold on to those 3 security PIN numbers at the back of the card. Then we're going to click OK. So we know that she's going to pay all this, and I'm going to say she actually paid on the, 31st of January, at the end of the month. Okay, so she paid all her stuff at the end of the month. Actually, I'm going to say she paid in February. Wait, these are 2019 dates. Okay, we'll leave it that way then. So just with that, we know that they're overdue, but that's okay. We won't worry too much about that. But yes, so if for any reason, maybe she wants to just pay it all in one go, that is exactly what you need to do. You just need to make sure you validate that she's paying all 3 by check marking them. And then lastly, we want to make sure that our totals kind of similarly add up correctly. All right, so we know that she's going to be paying us a total amount of $1,800. Then we can click Save and Close, and it's going to give us the beep of approval. Okay, so we went through entering a check. We went through entering a credit card. Now, we are going to go see what happens to the money. So this is where I was talking about earlier. We have, if you follow the line of transaction, you're going to notice that everything is going to be pushed to a little thing called record deposits. And if you look really carefully, I don't know if you saw it earlier, but if we put this window down, okay, and we saw on our home page, okay, hold on, let me go ahead and close that. If you look really carefully on our little diagram here, it gives us a little bubble of a notification saying, hey, you just entered 3 more transactions in here, or you have 3 pending things that need to be deposited. So that's really nifty about QuickBooks, is it lets you know, hey, don't forget to deposit these, right? Because you just got a payment from Bob. You had a sales receipt earlier from you just had a payment from another customer, and then we just received a payment from Maria Cruz. I'm so sorry. Can you give me 1 second? I'm going to go ahead and kick my dog out. All right, sorry about that. Okay, so again, going back to what we were just discussing earlier, we were talking about how whatever transactions that we do, whether we're receiving a check, whether it was a credit card transaction, we have here our notification saying, hey, you got 3 things that you need to deposit into your bank before this money can be valid to you or be available to you. So once we open up this window, you want to make sure that we get to see all types of transactions. So here, it's going to automatically populate here. I have a sales receipt. So this is a check that I received. And then here was a payment that I received from Bob Mason. And then here is my credit card transaction, Visa. Now, what they say they do highly recommend is that you separate your cash and your checks. You want to deposit separately, and you want to deposit your Visa, your credit card transactions. You want to make sure that they're separate. Reason being is because I will show you moving forward is when you go ahead and do this, what's going to happen is you can record a check and cash. That's it. That can go in right away. No extra fees attached to it. But because we allowed to have Visa, MasterCard, Discover Card, and all those things, they actually charge a percentage for us using their company. For us to accept that kind of transaction, they charge us a little interest fee on top of that. So we want to make sure that we calculate that separate fee in the bank deposit and make sure that we validate that as well. So we want to make sure that if we're going to be doing this, I'm going to go ahead and select at the top. I'm going to go and say cash and checks. So I'm going to separate them, and here I get my sales receipt that I received from that one from Perez Jerry, and then my payment that I received from Bob Mason. And what I can do here is, again, I'm going to take my left thing, and I'm going to go ahead and select which money I'm going to deposit. Now, once I do that, I know that this is the total amount that I'm going to be depositing into the bank, and I'm going to click OK. So here's going to show me, are you sure this is all that you want to deposit? You can also claim which day that you're depositing on. So I'm depositing this on the 31st of January. Okay, I validate that. So it's going to print out a deposit slip with that actual date. Okay, so here are my cash / checks that I'm depositing. Now, there's also a really cool feature at the bottom is, well, let's say I don't need to deposit all of it. I want to have some cash I want to have some cash back. So instead of depositing the money in, and then once that transaction's over, and then you can go ahead and pull the money out, you can actually do this cashback feature, which is down here at the bottom. But in this case, I don't need the cash back. I have my own business credit card that I can use to do whatever transactions I need. So for this one, I am not going to use this at all. I don't need cash back at all. So once I validated that these two things that are correct, and you add them up together, and it shows that I'm going to be at least getting $870. I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Close. Save and New, because we're going to continue doing the other deposit. I get a beep of approval. Now it's going to, because I click Save and I click New, it's assuming I'm going to continue another transaction. Okay? And now this one, right? I did talk about this one. You can toggle it if you just will only want your credit card transactions. But in this case, I only have one left. And this one, I know that the credit card company is going to charge me interest on top of that. So, a little future reference, if you are opening up a company and you are planning to have to accept any credit card, just know that you are going to be charged a percentage on it. You don't get to keep all the money. Okay? All right. So if we look at this, right, I'm going to go ahead and select that, yes, I validate that I need to deposit this amount. I click OK, and here we're at the deposits again. Now, if we look at the example, it's going to say that Visa, they normally charge you a 2% interest on it, or a 2% service charge on it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to okay, I'm going to accept that service charge. So what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to validate right here that I have a service charge right here, a bank service charge right here, okay? Because this is the amount that I am going to get charged for utilizing Visa credit card. And what I'm going to do here is I can actually, since I know they're going to charge me 2%, I can actually formulate a calculation here by entering in anything I want. If I were to, let's see, what was the amount for again? It was for 1950, is that correct? So if I were to go here, okay, I can go ahead and type in 1950 multiply, and then you're going to get a little receipt picture. And I'm going to go ahead and do negative 0.02%. And here it's going to subtract me $39 of service charge. Okay? Let me yes, $39. That's a lot to charge for us. But you know, that is what happens when you work with someone who's trying to collect the money for you or wants to pay temporarily. So you're going to automatically validate that you're not going to get the full 1950. Instead, you're going to get only 1911. Okay? So this is why they want to make sure that you separate your checks and cash, and you separate your credit card in your credit card transactions. So here, I'm not getting the full amount because I need to save that $39 and put it into bank services, which I've already validated that it is going to go straight into this account. And then I verify and I click save and close. Okay? So that is what happens when you need to deposit your money. And then where we can find where that is, if you click your check register and make sure that it's checking, you're going to see that on that day, you deposited a total of all this money right here. And then right here, you also deposited your Visa payable for the 1911. Okay, so here, this is where you can also keep track of your stuff. Now, the fine line is, did the person actually go and deposit it? Usually, you should deposit it first and then record it. But some people, they kind of want to deposit it beforehand so they can kind of be aware of how much money they should have and kind of reconcile, you know, if I were to put this in the bank, you know what I mean? So this is what happens, like they want to verify and just to make sure that it actually went through. And this is how you do it. Okay? All right, any questions about receiving payments and what you need to have to do afterwards? Okay? Okay. Okay, so let me see if I have time to do this. Okay, so yes, I do have time to be able to go over a sales tax, not sales tax, a sales discount. And I already went over income tracker with you guys. So, okay, so this is what happens, all right? Now, I'm going to actually, we were supposed to do one more problem before that. I was just scared I didn't have enough time. Okay, so I did show you what an income tracker does, but so there is one more example in there that is in regards to sales discounts. So, okay, so this is preference for applying payments. Again, this is something you guys can read on your own. It's I'm not gonna so good. So yeah, please go ahead and read this on your own. It's just basically on how you prefer the method of payment. So yes, if you want to go ahead and learn about this, please read it on your own. And then let's see, recording customer discounts. So here's the one section that I was going to go, I skipped over earlier. So this is what I'm going to go ahead and show you today. So of course, if you have promotional sales, which is very common of all stores and all just all businesses in general, right? You guys provide discounts, okay? Whether it's you provide the discount for a customer or whether you provide a store-wide discount, online discount, whatever it is, you may have a promotional deal that week, that month. So this is how you are able to apply these discounts. So again, we're going to go ahead and dive into this example. So here we're going to assume, so the person that we're going to be using is going to be Bob Mason because he's the one that we actually created an invoice for just recently, and we're going to have him pay early on in advance. So we're going to have him pay within the discount period. All right. So if you guys remember, his terms was 2%, 10, net 30. So if he paid within 10 days, then we can go ahead and validate his validate his discount. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and check up that invoice because I don't remember what day I actually set it up on. So I'm going to go ahead and search up Bob Mason, and he was the invoice for 106, if I'm not mistaken. If we come here, we can see that this is past due because obviously we're in June. But if I look at when I sent out this invoice, I sent it out on the 28th of January. So 10 days. I have 10 days to go ahead and give him the discount, right? 10 days. So I'm going to say maybe February, let's see, 10 days. I'm going to say February either 3rd that he paid for this invoice. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and close this out and show you what's going to happen. So I'm going to, I'm going to click the invoice again for Bob Mason for that one. And I'm going to go ahead and click at the top that I received a payment from him. You know, make it a little easier. Okay. So here it populates his invoice. And right here it's selected for me that the amount that he owes me is $154 for the invoice I wrote to him on the 28th. Now here I'm going to toggle that he paid on the February 3rd, I believe I claimed it to be. So that means he meets the discount period. So what happens is it's not going to automatically calculate it for you, but what's going to happen is what you can do is you can go ahead and what's going to happen is you're going to enter a line item. And what that line item is going to entail is, so if I were to click this, here's the invoice. I'm going to go ahead and include the line item. And I'm going to say, I think there is one for discounts. Or, yes, discount 10%. Once I click that in here, it's going to automatically calculate this 10%. And it's going to allow me to take the discount off of this thing. Now, they teach you this way because it's only going to take the discount the line above it. So you want to be careful when you do this, okay? So I wanted to show this as an example. If you look at it carefully, right? 10%, it's only taking it off of the first one, which is $55 in general, right? So our grand total for this is $154. That's not correct. We're supposed to get $14 off discount. So what's going to happen is instead of doing this, you're going to create a subtotal, right? Once you do a subtotal, it's going to indicate right here that my subtotal is $150. Okay? And then you are able to apply the discount after that. Okay? So, if you have more than one item, you need to create a subtitle account or a subtitle item to give you the grand total of everything that you accumulated for this bill. So as you can see, my new total now is $150, and if I apply the discount now, my discount is for $15. You see that? You see how that works? So if you were to put the discount in right now, it takes the discount up the line above it. Okay? All right? So this is a very crucial step that you absolutely cannot miss. And then I'm going to go ahead and click save and close. Now, once I do this, I'm going to say yes, and it's going to update my invoice right here. And it's going to say that, okay, well, now he doesn't owe us $154 anymore. He owes us $136. And that's correct. And then that should be the check number the check that he should validate his discount for. So instead of 54, it's going to be for 139.08. Now, questions for you guys. If he were to not be keeping track of his own bills and he end up paying us for more of it, what we're going to do is we're going to validate that he overpaid, and then we're going to create a credit memo for him, and we're going to allow him to either apply it to his other invoices or future invoices. And we're going to be looking into that in the next section when we can apply credit memos and whatnot, okay? So chapter 3 for homework tonight is a continuation on what you can do further for customers, because this section is basically split into two. All right, so here I validated this, and I think his check number, what was it, 52, I'm just going to make up a number, 66, and I'm going to say, I'm going to go ahead and validate that, save, okay? So that's how you apply discounts, all right? You can even create the item. If you have a store-wide sale, you can create that line item that says discount for 40% off, whatever it is, you are able to validate that and XYZ. So that is how you do that. And I just realized I did a 10% discount, not even a 2% discount, but that's okay. Just showing you how to do the discount in general. Yes. All right. Any questions about customers, payments, receiving payments, or anything at all for this chapter? Okay, I think that was a no. All right, so now let's go over the review questions. Okay, so the review questions are going to be somewhere on the last page. So let me go ahead and fast forward here.
I have a question.
Yes.
For some reason, I didn't pick up the third way to enter an invoice. So you can do new transaction at the top and manage transaction at the bottom left. And then what was the third way?
You can right click on the person's name that you know that is entering either an invoice. Do you say enter a payment or enter a bill? Or sorry, enter an invoice.
Yeah.
You can click on the person that you're trying to send an invoice to. You can right click it, and you should have the option to create the invoice there. So for example, Bob Mason, if I right click him, you have the option, let me go ahead and find it, to create invoice. Glennis, do you see this?
Yes, I'm watching.
Perfect. You can create the invoice right here.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And then don't forget, you can also do it also through the income tracker. So there's not 3 ways, there's actually 6 ways to get there. You could go on the home page. You can use the customer menu bar. You can enter in an invoice right here, create invoices. Okay? And then you can go into the income tracker and be able to do it that way too. And here's my income tracker, manage transactions, invoices. Okay?
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? I'm going to go ahead and find the review questions. So I did show you what the income tracker does. So I'm going to go ahead and keep scrolling down to find the review questions. Okay, so review questions. All right, are you guys ready? All right, so number 1. Okay. In the new customers window, you will find everything except A, customer name, B, customer invoice / bill to add or ship to date, address. C, customer active or inactive status, or D, year to end sales information. Anybody?
Would that be active, inactive status?
That is actually on there. I can go ahead and show you that. So let's go to our customer center. The customer calendar, QuickBooks. Here, customers. If I were to right click or double click, right, it's going to edit here. At the very bottom, it's going, there should be a button where you can either activate or inactivate them.
Okay, customers can activate it on the bottom left.
Yes, yeah, bottom left, yes. Okay, yeah, right here.
Date sales information.
That is correct. D is correct. I'm so sorry. There you go. D is correct. Yes. So A and B are pretty obvious. Those are the definite things that you will see. C was actually pretty hard. I didn't actually talk about that. If you, for some reason, your customer hasn't been making any, orders or asking anything from you, usually what you can do is, instead of deleting them off, because again, if you actually have a transaction with them, you actually cannot delete anything from them. So with that, it is very important that you know that you can inactivate if that person has not been doing business with you. You can go ahead and select that inactive status. So then when you do your reports, they don't show up as part of your customer list or anything like that. Okay, so yes, year to end transactions or sales information. Yeah, you will not be able to see that when you're setting up a new customer. All right, number 2, okay, you should record a sales receipt when the customer pays either A, by cash, check, or credit card at the time of sale, of sale. B, by cash, check, or credit card at the end of the month. C, sales tax on the purchase, okay. Or D, for the order upon receipt of or invoice.
A.
A is correct. At the time of the sale. All right, number 3. Okay, number 3 asks, which statement is false? Okay, so not true. We're looking for the wrong one, okay? So A, invoices are very similar to sales receipts. Is that true? Invoices are very similar to sales receipt forms. Okay.
No, I don't know.
Okay, we'll skip that for now. All right. Invoices decrease accounts receivable. Invoices decrease accounts receivable. Is that true?
That one's for sure no.
That one is for sure no. That is for surely false. But let's go through every single one before we select B. Sales receipts have no effect on accounts receivable. Sales receipts have no effect on accounts receivable.
True.
That is true. That is true. Because sales receipts is dealing with cash, check, and credit card, right? Things that are immediately going to come to us immediately. Accounts receivable is when people owe us money. All right. D, invoices should be created when customers are going to pay after the date of sale.
True.
That is true. So C and D is already true. Now, let's analyze A again. Invoices are very similar to sales receipt.
It's true.
That is actually true, because again, if we look at a sales form and then we look at the difference between that and an invoice, right? You are pretty much looking at, if not any different from what they are. So again, let me go ahead and show you an example. So if we were to create an invoice, right? Here, you have the customer's information, you have the class, you have the date, you have whatever number it is, the invoice number, you have the items, and you have your total amount, correct? If we flip in reverse, and we go ahead and select the sales receipt, you still have the customer, you still have the class, you still have the date, and you still have the invoice number with the amounts of stuff that you hit. All you have different is if they paid you or not. So looking at the difference between those two, they are pretty much very similar. So A is actually, it's opinion based, but it's more truer than definitely B, because invoices increase accounts payable. Okay? It doesn't decrease them. It only decreases them when you pay them. Okay? So B is the correct answer. All right, let's look at question number 4. You may specify payment terms on the new customer window. However, let me take a breath. A, the payment terms will only show on sales receipts transactions. Okay. B, the terms can only be changed once a year. C, the sales representative must be informed. Or D, you are also permitted to override the terms, meaning you can change them. Which one did you say?
D.
D is correct. Yes, just because you establish a term with a customer, that doesn't mean you have to follow them. This is what you're being generous enough to be able to give those terms. But if you have a customer that you know that always frequently pays towards the end of the day, you can override that. So any setting that you have, what you can do is when in that little section, you can actually, when you build them out, you can toggle it and say, I don't want to give this person terms anymore. Okay? Yes, you can. You are permitted to override the terms. Your accountant doesn't need to know. They only need to know, if you're creating the terms. Okay? And then terms can only be changed once a year. No, that's definitely wrong. All right, lastly, question number 5. Your company has just accepted a payment for an invoice. What should you do in QuickBooks? Okay, to record this payment. A, open the invoice. Open the invoice by clicking the invoice icon on the home page. You can either B, create a sales receipt by clicking the sales receipt on the home page, or C, make a deposit by clicking the deposit on the home page. And then, or D, receive the payment by clicking the receive payments on the home page. So which one? So if so, the question is asking. So if your company has just received a payment, what should you do? This is a pretty straightforward answer.
D, receive the payment.
Exactly. There's no need for you to open an invoice. You can open the invoice to click the receive payments icon at the top of the window, but that is not what you would do first. Okay? All right. So we are done for today. We did not take a break, so I am okay with letting you guys go early today.